American politics is intricate. Debates set the rhythm and a clash of ideologies, the melody. The 2023 to 2024 fiscal year was suspenseful and turbulent for the U.S. government. October 1st, 2023, marked the start of the fiscal year. A cloud of uncertainty hung over the nation. This was because Congress could not pass any of the 12 annual appropriations bills. The federal government needs these bills for funding. This impasse was not just a delay. It showed the deep divisions that defined American politics. It pitted Republicans against Democrats. And within the Republican Party, the far right is against moderates. The clock ticked close to a government shutdown. A shutdown is full of consequences. It would halt public services and leave federal employees unpaid. President Joe Biden signed a continuing resolution on September 30th, 2023. He was in a race against time. It extends federal funding for 45 days. This resolution was a temporary band-aid. It staved off the shutdown threat, but it set the stage for more showdowns. As mid-November approached, Congress passed a second continuing resolution. Then, they passed a third in January and a fourth in February. Each extended funding for limited periods and specific agencies. This piecemeal approach to governance showed how fragile bipartisan cooperation was. The endless brinkmanship finally saw a bit of resolution. It came only hours before the last of these resolutions was set to expire. Congress passed 6 annual appropriations bills bundled together. They fund about half of the federal government for the rest of the fiscal year. Yet the fate of the other appropriations bills hung in the balance. The specter of a partial shutdown loomed again. These crises kept happening because of the idea of a government shutdown. It is a forced stop of most non-essential federal operations. It happens due to the lack of funds. Laws from the Anti-Deficiency Act of 1884 and later laws are the basis for the shutdown. They aim to strengthen Congress's control over the budgeting process. The shutdown stops many non-essential government functions. It affects hundreds of thousands of federal employees. They are either furloughed or must work without pay. In the past, shutdowns came from partisan fights over funding levels. They also came from controversial changes to appropriations bills. One of the most notable shutdowns began on December 22nd, 2018. President Donald Trump started it over a dispute about funding for a border wall. It lasted until January 25th, 2019. These closures hurt federal employees and contractors. They also block key services for the American public, from passports to food safety. Longer shutdowns harm the economy. Yet not all facets of government halt during a shutdown. Essential services that safeguard national security, public health, and safety continue to operate. Laws fund programs like Social Security and Medicare. These laws are separate from annual budgets. They largely proceed unaffected. But challenges may arise if there is a disruption in ancillary services. The Federal Reserve and the U.S. Postal Service are also still running. They get funding from sources other than the federal government. Government shutdowns have become more common. There have been 21 since the 1970s. Each one was different in length and impact. The shutdowns reflect fiscal disputes and ideological battles. These shape American governance. They show the complexity of democracy. It is the perpetual negotiation between differing visions for the nation's future. The American public watched with bated breath as the 2023 to 24 fiscal year unfolded. They hoped for a resolution to steer the country from the edge of a fiscal precipice. Yet, lawmakers passed some appropriations bills. But the chance of future shutdowns loomed large. They reminded us of the enduring challenges of consensus in a divided politics. Amidst this uncertainty, the American spirit was resilient. Public servants dedicated themselves. They shone as beacons of hope. They guided the nation through tough times to a better future.